Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, the Federation meets Fast and Furious with Star Trek Beyond. The animals of Ice Age are on a collision course. And two light-titled films. We've got the new horror movie Lights Out, and new to DVD is the Hank Williams biopic I Saw the Light. But first up, Joe, we're going to talk about Star Trek Beyond.
So that makes sense. And,
you're the perfect person to do it.
Thank you. I guess it makes sense. I would say it's interesting you said that Star Trek meets Fast and Furious because I think unlike the previous Star Trek movies that have come out in the reboot, this one wasn't quite as fast-paced. So
interesting.
It is interesting. But getting into it, Star Trek Beyond is obviously the most recent Star Trek movie in the Abrams verse, and this one is basically directed by Justin Lin of Fast and Furious. And the screenplay was written by Simon Pegg, obviously a big Star Trek fan, knows it in and out. You got all the cast coming back: Chris Pine, Zachary Quino, everybody, and you've got a new villain played by Idris Elba playing Krull, who is an interesting character, I guess. And basically, the USS Enterprise is called out because there's a distress signal and they've got to help some alien in need.
Full-on classic.
Standard situation.
This never goes wrong.
Go into basically this uncharted area and they end up attacked, stranded on this alien planet, and they have to escape and find out how they can stop the bad guys' plan. I have to say that I've kind of had very mixed feelings about the Abrams movies, as you guys know, but I'm happy to report that I think that this movie feels a little more like classic Star Trek to me. And I'm not entirely sure if I can narrow down exactly what it is, but I do think that it's at least attempting to be a little bit smarter than the previous two films.
Okay.
A little less heavy on the action, a little more on the themes and just the good character stuff, which I do enjoy, and it doesn't feel too out of place because it does go off of what happened in the previous films, especially for Kirk and Spock.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the cast is great, doing well with their lines. They've got great chemistry, obviously. There's some good little callbacks and jokes as usual. And I actually thought the story was a nice change of place and pace.
Both, really.
Really.
That's applicable.
Because, instead of, more space battles, we actually have the crew on the planet doing some stuff, some adventuring. You got a new character introduced.
Mm-hmm.
You've got
I loved.
Who basically, I'm going to just refer to who has Space Elf.
Okay.
Equally applicable, yes.
Jail, I believe her name was. But yeah, I really liked that character a lot. I was worried she was just going to be like a plot device or over-sexualized, but she was a good alien character that interacted, and I hope she comes back. So she was welcome for me there. The biggest issue I guess I had was that I love Idris Elba, and I did like the fact that, I think he does a pretty good job with what he's given. The makeup was fantastic.
Yeah, the makeup was great.
Oh, man.
And the visuals are great. Even more practical effects, which I did appreciate, of course, blended with the CGI, so a good mix there. But I think they tried to create a more layered, thought-provoking villain compared to the previous ones, much more akin to standard Trek. And they touch on some really cool ideas, but much like his planet itself, it's extremely underdeveloped. So he kind of comes off being just a little bit better than generic. It's only because Idris Elba is giving a very cold, presence even beneath all that makeup.
Yeah.
That kind of elevates the character a little bit. He's a good villain, but I don't know if he's a great villain by any stretch. But at least they were trying.
Mm-hmm.
I think Justin Lin's got a great eye for direction, and I think he honestly gets Star Trek a little more than Abrams does. I think it's pretty apparent.
Yeah,
but I
agree.
I also think, though, that because it's a little more like standard Trek, I wonder how other people might find it appealing or not. So I'm curious to see what you guys thought, because I was surprised with it. I liked it more in some ways than the other ones, but I did think it might have been lacking a little bit in pacing issues. But overall, I was pretty happy overall.
This is a movie I guess would be the closest to compare to The Amazing Spider-Man in terms of my overall reaction. It starts off really, really messy with just so much going on, and yet nothing is happening. Then we get to Act 2, where it starts feeling like Star Trek out of nowhere, and it's actually a lot of fun. And then we get to the third act, where they're trying to justify why the first part of the movie was so messy, and it's only working about 50% of the time. Now, in terms of directors, I got to give Justin Lin credit. He has a really, really solid eye for, I would argue, the architecture of the ship. Like, it's really interesting seeing how he sets up, like, okay, here's this person there, how they're interacting when the ship is attacked, how they're responding. You can clearly tell the camaraderie that the crew has together. And it really shows how far we've come, even though it seems like the events of Into Darkness are more or less completely ignored, for better or for worse. I was sadly hoping for Super Trouble to show up at some point, but we can't have nice things.
You can dream, Justin.
I can dream. I would say really when it starts taking off is when they're on the ground in that in their new location dealing with the hardships. Honestly, if there was a Bones and Spock spinoff, I would be totally in favor of it.
Well, Spock and Bones have always had the best quips with each other.
Like, seriously, the best moments in this movie are with them together. It's quite possibly the most unlikely pairing, and yet it works so well.
Yeah, I love it.
No, that always works, though. That's standard Trek. They always go to each other like that.
Carl Urban, though.
Gotta
Still
love it.
my favorite
Fantastic.
part, as usual, great Bones, great
Yeah.
DeForest Kelly impressions, spot on.
Yeah, it really is.
Absolutely.
So very mixed for you, Justin, seems like.
Yeah, I mean, like, the visual component I think is really good for once we don't have lens flares. It's probably... I'm actually okay with Abrams as a director. It's just... the lens flares gotta go, man. I'm sorry. It's just...
You kind of made me realize something. This is more of a Star Trek nerd gripe, but it is kind of big considering this is the third movie now in the reboots. The new Enterprise is terrible. Okay, their shields are worthless. This thing got more destroyed than, like, you thought it was bad in the previous movies. Like, at this point, can't you just show that the Enterprise is the best ship? It takes a lot of damage, and I feel like the suspense, if it goes...
you gotta get him in there somehow.
Yeah.
I know, but if you do it the next time, I mean, come on. Let's avoid blowing up the ship again,
Yeah.
They've only gone through, like,
Standard.
8 models, whatever.
I know, right?
But no, I left this one feeling satisfied, but I feel like it could have been great.
Well, I loved it. Here's the thing. The best thing I think we can all agree about the first 2 Trek reboots was the amazing casting and the chemistry of all of them together.
Oh, yeah.
Here, I think that grows even stronger. And you add the element of Beyond being more or less a 2-part extended episode, which I think works incredibly well. It is as enjoyable as it is marvelously crafted. Peg wrote a great script. It gives the series the strongest storyline yet, I think, because it doesn't rely on previous movie elements like Khan, like Into Darkness. And like the first movie, it doesn't need to introduce everyone and give them a purpose. I mean, we waste about 20 or 30 minutes in that first movie, and literally 90% of the people going to see this movie already know. So I don't know if we needed to spend all that time. It was fine. I love the first Abrams movie. I do. Mm-hmm. But for me, this is the best one of the series.
Really?
I think Lynn gives it this great look. You both mentioned that. What I think Lynn does best is giving us the action sequences that he's obviously known for, while also completely attaching us more to the characters that we already love. I think that's why the Fast and Furious franchise is so strong, because it's got a great action component, but you genuinely care about all of the characters, and I think we have that here too, including, Joe, as you mentioned, the new woman, who I hope we see in future installments as well. I thought she was great. My one minor complaint is Elba, and not because of Elba.
No.
He does a great job, like you said. I agree, the makeup is fantastic. But, his screen time is so minimized that he barely even registers until that final part, the final showdown. And he's an okay villain. He's not the best I've seen.
His motivations are a little
Splashy.
odd.
They are, but look, we're going through all these old Trek episodes. When you look at a lot of these old Trek episodes, is it better or worse than any of them?
Charlie X?
Well, it's certainly better than Charlie X.
Well, yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, a standard Trek villain doesn't necessarily have the best, motivation or plot basis.
Puny human, I will destroy you.
And that's, what I like the most about this is that I think because Peg is a true fan, you've got the feel of Trek that everybody that likes Trek is going to enjoy. And because of the first 2 movies kind of setting up the cast and everything, people that were not even familiar with Trek 8 years ago, I think will also really appreciate it if they've even seen one of the 2 other movies. I mean, they don't set anything up, so it's like if this is the first thing ever you've seen of Trek, okay, maybe not. kind of like Days of Future Past, or some of the X-Men movies can agree is a great movie.
You can't, not for the uninitiated.
But don't ever see it if it's your first X-Men experience. I feel kind of the same way here. I mean, you might enjoy some of the sequences, but I don't think it'll really mean anything to you. Whereas I think for the Trek lover or the person who appreciates the Abrams movies, and that's it, I think both camps will enjoy this.
I think they'll both be satisfied.
There's something to get out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, want to hear my thoughts?
Yeah, I can't wait.
I don't think it's perfect, but I would agree it's probably my favorite of the new ones. I'll leave it with an A-.
Okay, well for me, this is the film of the summer. I mean, this is what blockbusters are all about. It's an A for me.
Oh.
Summer of Disappointment continues, B-.
Oh.
All right.
But hey, better than Amazing Spider-Man. That was a C+, if I remember correctly.
And better than Ghostbusters. Better than a lot of the reboots we've gotten thus far. We'll see about next week with Jason Bourne. Justin's not a Greengrass fan.
I think that might be
I'm
long
not,
one.
but I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this
And he
one.
hates the name.
I do hate the title, I'm not going to lie.
But it's his name.
It's his name. They want people to know Damon is back.
To be fair,
Jason Bourne.
you don't think they know?
Hey,
I'll be honest, I would have been okay
I
with
heard
Bourne
worse.
5 at this point.
Bourne 5.
Rocky Balboa. Great title. Hey, Rocky's back, everybody.
But what numbers?
We know Rocky 5 sucked,
can-
so now it's a start over. Anyway, up next is Lights Out, and that's with Justin.
Teresa Palmer plays Rebecca, a young woman living on her own and distancing herself from her family and her dark past. Though when the same terrors she faced as a child begin taking a toll on her younger brother Martin, played by Gabriel Bateman, Rebecca returns home and witnesses the horror that only occurs when the lights go out. Maria Bello has a supporting role, and everybody's favorite swan, Billy Burke, has a brief cameo. Case in
I
point-
don't understand the Swan bit.
Yeah, could you explain that one?
Who's Billy Burke?
Twilight, Charlie.
Oh, no wonder I didn't know that.
I wouldn't have known that if you paid me $1,000. And I'm happy about that. Okay. I thought it was a Black Swan reference.
That's what Black Swan.
I could
He may have been in that, I don't know.
Whatever. Sounds
Keep
good.
going. Go ahead.
But when it comes to movies that end up being based on shorter and most of the time better shorts, I tend to tell people to run to the hills. There's a ton of movies that fit this bill. Lights Out almost becomes the exception to the rule. Well, I guess I should say for the first half. Where with its short running time, it moves really nicely. It finds a lot of cool ways to play with lighting, offer exposition, and give the general setup. The problem for me is the more we dive into the horror itself, it becomes incredibly generic, goofy, and the budget is more and more apparent, leading to a way too clean-cut exit, and any sort of suspense is just lost. For me, I think you can do a whole lot worse with PG-13 generic horror, but I feel like there was a lot more that could have been done with this that just sort of got squandered by the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure where to even begin with this, because there's a lot of good things about it, and then there's a lot of bad things about it. I thought it was pretty effective overall, but there's a lot of inconsistencies with the story. The little boy just was not a very good actor.
Not particularly.
The characters are kind of lame.
They're terrible.
Just a wee bit, yeah.
They're terrible. But I thought the atmosphere was really good. I thought some of the practical effects worked. The conclusion of one character in particular I thought was a bold choice that worked, at least for me. So, I don't know. I kind of liked it, but certainly we've seen better this year alone. But what do you think, Joe?
Well, I have heard from a couple people that this one was like one of the horror ones this year to see, and I guess in terms of the lighting and atmosphere, it does work well for setting up some scares. Like, I can't deny that. But at the same time, I kept thinking to myself, it's doing it well, but it's doing something that many movies have done before. That's nothing new. Like, the turn the light on and off, or like moving between a certain being that's afraid to go in the light. I've seen many movies with monsters like that.
Sure.
So it's really not that revolutionary of a concept. I just think that the way it was handled in terms of some of the shots was interesting. But like I said, I think that the horror was more or less, when it wasn't atmosphere, it was just tons of jump scares.
Yeah.
Again, which I hate. It's the laziest thing ever.
And if you are going to do jump scares, space them out, bury them, find a way to put a spin on them. Like Conjuring 2 at least found unique ways to play with it.
I don't think there was as many as we've seen in a lot of movies.
Not a lot.
I think, a lot of the scares in this were like, the scratching on the floorboards.
Yeah.
Or, the things she found in the basement. I think there there were some more effective scares than just the jump scares. Because you're right, I don't like them either.
It was creepy sometimes, but I never really felt like I was too terrified throughout it. I actually felt like it was kind of cheesy, like, what's going to happen here? I think there were a couple elements there. And it was also ruined by the fact that I didn't like these characters. And it's not necessarily that the acting was too bad from some people. It's just that they would say lines that didn't feel like human beings would actually be speaking. Like they just randomly give off exposition, and you're like, people just don't talk like that.
Yeah.
You need more to go off of.
I just that was the biggest issue for me, is like, all right, well, what is it about this movie that's really selling it for people? And I mean, I guess there are some scares that are handled well, and I guess the general concept's okay, but I've seen this before. I felt like it was pretty standard. Not horrible, but
I mean, if you're going to go with the whole monster in the house story, you need to find a way to spin it, because it's been done over and over and over again.
An evil ghost demon.
But he
thing.
wasn't just in the house. He just followed. He just went wherever, or she actually.
Yes.
She just went wherever she wanted to. She showed up at Teresa Palmer's apartment.
It's cool.
Whatever's convenient, I guess.
It is, but
traveling by darkness
really get established as such from her backstory.
No.
Yeah.
Which bothered me.
Just a small plot hole.
Haunting a certain area, but also the darkness is her home, so she can literally be anywhere.
I guess.
Which is like offers, I guess, that sense of terror that did work well, as you don't know at any point when it's dark when she's going to pop up and get you.
Yeah.
But not very established.
And
not particularly, no.
Also the same basic evil ghost lady character in every movie now. I mean, so I don't know. It was a pretty mixed bag for me, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joe, what is your grade for Lights Out?
My grade for Lights Out is a C+.
All right. B- for me.
And I can leave it with a C.
Up next is Ice Age Collision Course, in the 5th now film in the animated Ice Age series.
It's you guys.
Scrat finds an alien. Yeah, Joe missed this one. So we'll see if that was a good thing or not, Joe.
We'll see.
Let's find out.
So
in the movie, Scrat finds an alien spacecraft on the way to get his acorn, and in the process unleashes several asteroids that are set to collide with Earth. So all the animals of Ice Age scatter to survive, and there's some family drama, also some dinosaurs after the crew over a stolen egg. All the main cast returns, including Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, Dennis Leary, Queen Latifah, Simon Pegg, yet again, and Jennifer Lopez, plus newcomers Nick Offerman, Stephanie Beatriz, and Max Greenfield voicing the dinosaurs. And the man who won't say no to anything, Neil deGrasse Tyson, has a role here as well. Now, one of the first animated movies we did on this show was Ice Age 4, which Joe also missed.
Yep. I remember.
And not one of my favorites. D+, I believe, was my grade. These films just keep getting worse. And not only that, but I don't think they were that good to begin with. Scrat is one of the most annoying animated characters there is, and I honestly don't know anybody that thinks he's funny. Maybe in the first or second movie, okay, he's chasing the acorn, but they keep putting him in like shorts that they run in front of other Fox animated films, and they never get a laugh from any theater I'm in.
All right. You know what? To chime in,
Tell me.
there was the one recently where he was out in space and like the acorn like shot into the astronaut.
That is the first scene of this film.
Yes.
Okay, well, I
Kind
thought
of like what they did with Home.
Yep.
I did think that was kind of funny. His utter terror.
Really?
That got a chuckle out of
Okay.
it. So
Not from me.
there you go. Just one.
And seeing it again at the beginning of the movie didn't add anything
Wait a
to
minute.
me.
Wait, they used the first part of the movie as a short?
Oh, they've
Yeah.
done it
That's
like
like Home.
3 times.
Remember when the Home short was out in front
Yep.
of
Oh,
I forget what it was, Peabody maybe,
with Steve Martin.
Something like that,
and
yeah.
it was like, but then that was the opening scene to the actual movie.
That's really lazy.
Same thing here.
That's really lazy.
Very lazy. So, the only reason not to fail this movie for me is the voice work is decent from people like Leary and Romano, and Leguizamo's Sid the Sloth, as per usual, the only one getting laughs from me. I think he is great with this character. He is the one they should be making shorts of. I think he's very funny. Now, we had a discussion a few weeks ago that Justin brought on during our Finding Dory review about how, maybe no sequel is really necessary. But the Ice Age series has to be the textbook example of this idea.
Of unnecessary.
Nobody's clamoring for this. The weak box office receipts in the U.S. at least would prove that theory correct. I couldn't stand this movie.
Kids don't like Ice Age?
I don't think anymore.
Not to my
Maybe
knowledge.
10 years ago. I mean, the first two did all right.
Yeah.
But I'll put it to you like this, Joe, and I may have relayed this anecdote when we reviewed the fourth one, but my nephew at the time was 7 when we saw Ice Age 4. 7-year-olds are pretty non-discerning.
Jews generally. Yeah.
He turns to me halfway in the movie and says, "When is this over?"
That's pretty bad.
I don't think kids like these movies even, to be honest. Justin, what'd you think of Collision Course?
Well, I've seen the first 2, and here's my biggest problem with the, quote, franchise. The first movie is a complete story. It ends... Spoilers, though, honestly, if you haven't seen the first Ice Age at this point, that's your own fault. It ends literally many decades after the Ice Age ended. So why we decided to go back to this universe is beyond a gaping plot hole to me. As far as the whole...
The alien spaceship in the Ice Age was sort of my big plot hole.
That too. I mean, if we're gonna talk plot holes in Ice Age, we're gonna be here all night. But no. As for the whole Scrat thing, I actually really like the way he was implemented in the first film. Like, he was a minor plot device, and he became a reoccurring character.
Yeah, running joke that's okay for a little bit.
Well, that was actually integral to the story, instead of the way he is now, where he's got his own subplot. He's literally causing all these various events that are supposed to be like tongue-in-cheek. Oh, look, he's the reason
For the apocalypse.
for basically the apocalypse, or why the geography has been restructured and la-di-da. But
I see a problem with turning a character like that who's supposed to be humorous. He seems like he would be kind of unlikable if he's causing all the disasters.
Yeah.
yeah,
Sucks.
but I think they should have taken a page from the first one in regards to less is more. And alongside that, with the first one, we actually got fairly well-developed characters by family film standards. The problem after that first one is just we decided to reduce everyone to a one-note thing, dumb everything monumentally down to 5-year-old and under level of humor, and it just suffers so horribly. All of the major characters come back, which is amazing that they were able to pull that off. The voice work is okay. I loathe the new edition of Adam Devine.
You hate him, so no surprise there. We've already talked about that last week with Mike and Dave.
It's like, I just don't get it. And why, again, are they having you sing? Yes, we get it. You were in Pitch Perfect. Make it freaking stop. That doesn't have to be your go-to.
Most people sing in animated movies. I was alright with that.
Joker learned that.
Wow.
Spoilers for later.
Hey.
Spoilers for later.
Later episode. Don't jump the gun.
Sorry.
Wow. Justin's getting pissed.
Well, we gotta save it.
The storyline, I think, works okay. Ironically enough, I found Scrat's story more engaging than the actual central one for the most part, even though it does make absolutely zero sense.
And the central one, though, is like every other Ice Age. Every single Ice Age, we introduce a female character. And, the second one, Ray Romano learns, I'm not the only woolly mammoth. So then introduce Queen Latifah. The last one, we introduce Jennifer Lopez as Dennis Leary's girlfriend. And then, this one, and that, it's like, ugh. And that's the other problem with this franchise, is that at this point, you add, 2 to 3 characters per movie. Like Wanda Sykes as the grandmother was added in one of the later ones. I'm not sure if it was 3 or 4, but so she's back. It's like at this point you have a cast of like 25 main characters. How do you expect to really like look at Kung Fu Panda 3.
Yep.
It's pretty much the same central cast. Yeah. And then, in the third one this year we met his kids and stuff, or not his kids, but the kids.
Yeah.
The Panda kids. And, okay, they'll probably be in the next one. But I can't imagine they're going to have, like, major roles.
Oh, no.
Like, these guys, it's like, we got to give everybody equal time. It just...
Also...
I'm over it.
Can we talk about how they've found in numerous ways to repeatedly waste Sean William Scott?
Yeah, true. He is wasted in these movies.
It's like, you used to be great, and now, what happened? I don't get it. But
he's in a bad franchise, Justin.
He is.
I'm not going to say Dennis Leary's career is over because Ice Age 5 isn't good.
Well, Justin, look at this.
But,
you'll always have the goon.
Yeah, the Goon is great.
Yeah. American Pie.
obviously.
1 through 3 at least.
And Role Models.
Yes. The comedy never seems to get enough love, but
Yeah,
yes.
I do love that. But I can't blame Sean William Scott for wanting a paycheck. I mean, the guy wants to work. Animated films are easy. I mean, why do you think all these big names keep coming back? Ray Romano doesn't need to work ever.
No.
Them royalties.
Yeah, them royalties. So, I can't
Oh,
blame
Lord.
the people for being in it. It's just a terrible movie.
Pretty much.
It's like blaming Return to Oz on Kelsey Grammer. Was it a great choice on his resume? Probably not.
No, not quite, no.
But,
He's like, hey, I'll
you
try.
know,
Why not?
Patrick Stewart was the wooden boat.
Yeah, I'm
Joe's favorite.
I'm
part.
never going to get that out of my
That
head.
was disturbing for some
Oh,
reason.
God. Anyway, this movie stinks. It's a D.
I was going to play devil's advocate and say D+ because I figured, like...
Justin, it's
For-
so bad.
Getting to that. For at kid level, I could see someone enjoying it. But what happened at the end, Dan, that brought it down?
Oh, no.
The musical number.
They ended on yet another generic music, song, and dance number because we had to.
Oh, Adam Devine.
By virtue of Adam Devine, who I will someday understand why Hollywood keeps
I
using
don't think
him.
you will.
But that day is yet to come. It's a D.
All right. Well, finally, we have I Saw the Light, and that's going to be with Justin.
So does Loki do a good job with his country singing? That's the real question.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Tom Hiddleston of Loki fame in the MCU plays famed country singer Hank Williams, a man with an enormous plethora of legendary songs. Though over the course of his brief but memorable career, Williams suffers for his fame in both his relationship with his wife Aubrey, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and in regards to his own personal health. This is a movie that I feel could have been really, really great, and instead it's just not.
Dang.
For starters, it goes all over the place, and it's a nightmare to keep up with at times. Now, before I go too far with that, I want to clarify this straight out the gate. None of this is Hiddleston's fault. I've really yet to see him phone it in. I'm sure that day will come, but really, I mean, for the most part, he's always devoted to his characters, and I like the fact that his accent's consistent. I believe he did his own singing. I don't know that.
Not only did he do his own singing, it's live to tape.
Oh,
he
shoot.
is not lip syncing anything in this
Oh my
movie.
gosh! Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, definitely props there.
Yeah,
And,
Joaquin Phoenix style.
Nice.
Joaquin Phoenix. Never mind. Side note.
Walk the line.
No,
okay.
I was going to say Walk the Line, same deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I always thought so.
Admittedly, it's been a long time since I've seen Walk the Line. But
Anyway, this one I know for a fact because I looked it up today.
okay, fair enough. I
Because
appreciate
I was
that.
curious.
I was going to ask that because I wanted to find out.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering that the whole time as well.
But yeah, definite points there. I mean, definitely sounds like Hank Williams. And Elizabeth Olsen, I thought, did a pretty good job for her minor screen time, but did the job. Problem is just the directing is chaotic, the storyline is incredibly episodic, and well, we'll constantly be like, okay, he's doing great. No, he's not. Oh wait, he's back again. He's got a new song. All right, and then just repeat the process for a grand total of 2 hours. And as a result, it feels kind of like we've seen the same shtick 4 times over by the time we're done. I really wish this had been good because I think the performances could really are committed. It's just, it feels like a gigantic lost opportunity to me. I'm curious to see where you guys stood on it.
I'll confess I don't know really anything about Hank Williams. Country music is not really my forte.
You've heard some of these songs.
I was going to
though.
say.
I've heard them.
Some of these are pretty classic.
Doesn't mean I like them, though.
No, true. Very true.
So, yeah, honky tonk, no. But, okay, even putting that aside, I mean, I will admit that was a factor for my enjoyment, but I still try to get involved with these characters. And, I mean, you kind of said it absolutely right, Justin. I mean, Hiddleston just was unrecognizable to me. I mean, I thought that his accent was just... It wasn't even that it was consistent. He just got absorbed in it. Like, if I had never seen him in another movie, I would assume that this is how he talked. Like, it was just that masterfully done. And now that he did the singing as well, multi-talented. I mean, Hiddleston, I think, needs to be in more things. I guess people appreciate him, but, I mean, he needs more roles like this. And I'm glad he took on the project. And I think that was the most compelling thing. but I guess maybe it was the directing. For me, it was the editing. I just thought a lot of the choices were just kind of choppy, and it wasn't. Sometimes it was hard to follow, but to be completely honest, I think the combination of the editing style and the fact that I'm not really that interested in the man, I felt kind of bored in this movie a lot of times.
As did I.
So, I don't know how much of that is my personal feelings about that particular style of music, but I mean, I thought the performance was good, but I can't say that I was fully invested throughout much of it. So it was a pretty mixed bag for me.
I can't say I was bored with it at any time, but I mean, you guys both, kind of said the major aspects of this. Tom Hiddleston is amazing. This movie is not, but in a better movie, this is an Oscar-worthy performance. This is not something that anybody will look at for award season, because why would they? It's just a terrible movie, but he gives such a good performance. We were having a conversation off air about the upcoming Doctor Strange trailer, and I was saying that I'm sort of sick of the American accent, quote unquote, that the British actors lately adopt.
How about you just call it the British American accent?
Yeah, the British American accent. And my best examples are Finnick in Hunger Games, House MD, and Doctor Strange. They all have this weird, let's all just make our consonants hard, and no one actually in America, in any region, talks like this.
No one talks like
But
that.
this is my version. This is my version of an American accent. Like, and Casey did it
Intentionally.
Intentionally.
Because that he can do a perfect
in the
one.
stupid Mandarin movie, in Iron Man 3.
Yes.
I call it the Mandarin, I guess.
Oh.
Right, so this is showing how it is done. Like Joe said, we would all think that this is Hiddleston's real voice.
It's crazy.
If we never saw him do anything else. I mean,
Good.
it's pitch perfect, no pun intended. But everything else about this movie is disappointing. I agree, Justin Olsen. She does well with the
She does an
small.
adequate job.
Yeah, she's fine.
I thought she was okay.
in her small role, better than I've seen her in some, not as good as I've seen her in others.
Yeah.
But everything gets just so Justin said episodic, but it doesn't give us any reason why this guy is one of the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They play a few songs that we know, but why? What happened in his career that made
Why are we
him-
talking about him?
Right, why
Context
are we
people.
talking about him 50 years later? It's not because, his grandson did the Are You Ready for Some Football song.
my goodness.
Obviously the guy has a legacy. What is it?
Yeah.
And also the circumstances surrounding his death barely even get a footnote. It's a very interesting story, and we don't see any of it in this movie. So what a wasted opportunity. I'm not a huge country music fan, but I can appreciate from whence it came.
Oh, there was a definite
in
story
the
here.
40s, and where's the tribute this man deserved? Wasn't Hiddleston's fault, like Justin said. I mean, I completely agree with that statement, but everything else in this movie does not work.
It's really hard to figure out where to place the blame. I think there's the directing side of it. I definitely think there's the editing side of it. I almost feel like there's a better movie in here. It's just I don't know how to pull it out.
But what about the writer?
Yeah, I was basically focus on the main story that might be the most compelling, as opposed to just touching a lot of little things, dancing around it.
There were a couple times where I sort of just paused it and thought, am I watching a hack job sort of like Fantastic Four? But
I don't know if it was quite that bad.
It definitely wasn't as bad as Fantastic
But that
Four.
is a good example.
You had one person that cared about their performance in this film, for example. But,
Definitely, yes.
Ooh.
No, but look at a movie like Ray. I mean, Ray did focus on a lot of the drugging and the women and the whole personal saga of Ray Charles. But never once did you mistake that, okay, I get why this guy is the cream of the crop in the R&B world.
Right.
Now, it was a probably 25-minute longer movie than this is, so maybe they had some extra time to flesh things out. But I don't really think that gives it an excuse.
I think Ray was much more focused.
It definitely was.
Because it
Considerably,
was
yes.
focused on particular periods of the life, go through them, get enveloped in it,
Yes.
through the performance and the singing, and then move on. It was nowhere near as episodic as this movie. Not even close.
Or chaotic.
No, I mean, I remember Ray being a smooth experience. You didn't feel jarring at all.
I saw the light as trying to is trying to like cram everything and yet nothing in this movie all at the same time, and giving little to no justification for either. And it's sort of bizarre in viewing it for that matter.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joe, what's your grade for I Saw the Light?
It's like a C for me.
Okay. Yeah, it would be way down there, but for Hiddleston's performance, so I'll give it a C minus.
D.
Wow. Even with the great performance.
I mean, it's a solid performance, but I mean, I would say Cumberbatch did an adequate job in Fifth Estate, but it was still a pretty bad movie.
I don't think he was anywhere close to this good. I mean, the guy did all his own singing live.
That's pretty awesome.
Solid enough for me to give it out of that D range. But yeah, I urge you guys and all of our listeners to look up, on Wikipedia or elsewhere the story of his death, because it's not covered in this movie at all. So, all right, well, that will do it for this week's show. And you guys can subscribe to our channel here on Facebook, on YouTube, or join us on Facebook at Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.